So before the video ended, boys and girls, we were answering our question of how many groups were competing for the space in Mexico's Fertile Valley, and why might they be competing to live in this particular place? The word, so we're going to answer this. So let's think about it. And my answer was the word fertile. We know means able to support the growth of many plants, which provides a clue. It means the valley had a land full of things that support the growth of plants. And that is an important feature of the land when people who grow their own food are looking for a place to live. So if you were looking back then, if they weren't just able to go to the grocery store like us boys and girls, they had to physically grow their own food to eat. So it was important that as they settled or tried to find a place to settle, they found somewhere that was fertile ground that was able to grow plants. So that's what made it competing for other groups, because they were all looking for fertile land within Mexico. So it might be difficult to make sure that you find one before another civilization did. Okay, so let's continue reading our next passage, our next page. It says, on the lake shore, the Aztec, we're right here on page 33. It says, Aztecs beginning in Lake Texaco. On the lake shore, the Aztec built mud huts and lived on food from the lake, frogs, fish, and algae. They hunted deer, rabbits, coyotes, armadillos, and snakes. They raised bees, turkeys, and ducks. They gathered grasshoppers and foods for wood. They gathered grasshoppers and worms for food. The Aztec adapted to their swampy environment by creating habitable land from the lake bottom. They built gardens called Chenampas in the middle of Lake Texaco. They built bridges over the marshes and grew a variety of crops on mainland as well. They cultivated corn, beans, squash, tomatoes, almonds, and chilies. Members of the ruling class grew fruit trees in their small personal gardens. Crops grew throughout the year in Mesoamerica's tropical climate as food supplies expanded. Chitochican grew. So then it explains what that means. So they're gardens built from lake bed. So if you read there, you can just see how the Aztec people built their gardens on their lake bed. Okay, so on to the next page, page 34. It said tea was laid out on a grid. Its streets and canals formed a pattern of squares. Its religious and ceremonial center was located at the heart of the city. The sacred precinct or pyramid temple complex was much larger than ones at the Maya centers. Stone walls covered the serpents around the precinct. The great temple or dominated the space inside the walls. On top of the Temple Mayor, the Aztec built shrines to honor their two most important gods. One shrine was dedicated to, I'm going to try it, Huitzilopochtli, the sun god, and the other Tlaloc, the rain god. The rain god. Sorry, boys and girls. Social class determined where people lived, how they dressed, and how they earned a living. Aztec priests lived in palaces within the sacred precinct. Just outside the sacred precinct, the emperor, sorry, boys and girls, members of the noble class built carved stone palaces and beautiful gardens. Beyond the city center, Chiconchican was divided into four sections or quadrants. Each quadrant was divided into 20 kalapolin or districts. Each one by itself, called a kalapali, had its own farm, marketplace, and school. Commoners, including merchants, artisans, and farmers, lived together in the kalapolin. They built their houses of sun-dried clay bricks called adobe. These one-story houses often had peaked thatch roofs. Excuse me. Others had flat earthen roofs used for planting gardens. Many people also built domed mud huts outside their homes. These huts were used as sweat baths. The Aztec lit fires outside the huts to warm the walls. They entered the sweat baths once the inside walls began height, and they threw water against the heated walls, producing steam. This effect was similar to modern day steam baths. So, boys and girls, we're going to stop here and pick back up on the next page.